When you think about the drug trade, you kind of get this picture in your head, right? Like all this shadowy stuff going down. But
Mm.
um, after looking into some things happening in Kerala, uh, you realize that that image is like way outdated.
Yeah, it's not quite like the movies anymore, is it?
No, not at all. I mean, forget those dark alleys you see in films. It looks like a lot of it is happening online these days.
Hmm.
Probably just people at home on their laptops.
It really is amazing how much the digital world has changed things. I mean, even these activities that used to be, so secretive.
Right, like hidden away.
Exactly. And what we're looking at today is how the police in Kerala uncovered this whole drug trafficking network that was running entirely on the dark web.
The dark web, yeah. That's still like this mysterious part of the internet for most people, I think.
It is, it's definitely a bit hidden.
Like, I heard someone describe it as like if the regular internet is this big open marketplace,
Right.
where you can see everything.
Right.
The dark web is kind of like a secret back room.
Hmm.
You can only get in if you know the right way.
I like that analogy. Yeah,
Mm.
that's a good one.
And the stuff they're selling in that back room, definitely not legal.
Definitely not. And in that digital back room, as you called it, the Kerala police found 25 people involved in this online drug trade, and most of them were actually living in Kerala.
And that's the part that I found really surprising because it wasn't who you'd expect. It wasn't people you might think would be involved in something like this. They were IT professionals, young people who knew their way around tech, and a lot of them came from pretty well-off families. So it makes you think twice about, who's really involved in this kind of stuff.
It definitely challenges your assumptions, and I think it shows how these traditional ideas about why people get involved in crime, they don't really apply in the same way online. Like, you
Uh,
have to wonder what would make someone who has all these skills and opportunities choose to do this kind of thing. I mean, is it just about the money, or is it like the thrill of doing something illegal online where they think they can't be caught?
yeah, that's a good question. So let's talk about this shift then from street dealing to online operations because it's a huge change. It's like instead of staying on a street corner, they're running these online businesses from their homes, like, setting up shop with their fancy laptops,
Yep.
maybe get some music playing in the background. And it's just like running any other e-commerce website, except it's all illegal.
Exactly. And I think a big part of why they're moving online is that it seems safer. There's no risk of getting caught in a face-to-face deal, and they probably feel like they're more anonymous online.
Right,
And we have to give credit to the Kerala police here, especially their cyber division and their technical intelligence wing.
right.
They were the ones who noticed this trend of more and more drug deals happening in these hidden corners of the internet. They were doing this really important digital intelligence work, and it shows how law enforcement is having to change and learn these new skills to fight crime in the digital age.
And it wasn't just limited to Kerala.
Hear about that.
They found that these online drug operations had spread to other big cities in South India, like Bengaluru.
Right, Bengaluru was a major hub for them.
So it was like they were expanding their business, taking advantage of how easy it is to reach people online.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, the internet breaks down all those geographical barriers, so criminals can use that just like any other business.
So forget about those shady meetings in dark alleys.
Hmm.
How did these online drug deals actually go down?
Well, from what we've seen, it's pretty similar to how any online marketplace works.
Like Amazon or something.
Exactly. Buyers would post what they're looking for, sellers would advertise what they had, and once they agreed on a price, the buyer would make a payment.
And how are they paying?
That's a really important point because most of them were using regular digital payment methods like the banking apps that everyone uses.
Really? So they weren't using cryptocurrency or anything like that to hide their tracks?
Most of them were out of the 25 people identified, only one was using cryptocurrency. And, while cryptocurrency isn't completely untraceable, it does make things a lot harder for investigators.
Right, because with bank accounts, it's easy to see who's sending and receiving the money.
Exactly. Those accounts are directly tied to people's real identities. But with cryptocurrency, transactions are recorded on this public ledger. But it's much harder to link those transactions back to specific individuals.
Interesting. So it sounds like they were taking a big risk using their own bank accounts.
They were, and I think it shows how they might have gotten a bit careless.
Like they thought they were safe?
Maybe they thought it would be easier to attract more customers if they used familiar payment methods, but they might have underestimated how good the police are getting at tracking these things.
Like they got too comfortable and that's what got them caught.
Yeah, it seems like so it wasn't just about using the dark web. They also needed to be really careful about how they handled the money.
Right. So let's talk about the scale of this operation for a minute. Were we talking about like these huge international drug cartels who had just shifted all their business online?
No, not really. What we saw in Kerala was more about distribution than like large-scale smuggling. It seemed like they were selling moderate amounts of drugs, probably getting them from both inside and outside India. But Kerala itself wasn't the main point of entry for the drugs. It was more like a central hub where these online dealers could operate and then send their products out to customers all over South India.
So Kerala was like a distribution center for these smaller online drug sellers.
That's a good way to think about it.
Interesting. So what happened after the police uncovered this network?
Well, they arrested a number of people in Kerala, and for those who were operating in other states, they shared all the information they had gathered with the police in those states, so it became this big, coordinated effort to take down the whole network across multiple states.
So it sounds like the police are taking this very seriously.
Absolutely, and I think it's a good reminder that even on the dark web, you're not completely anonymous.
Right, because a lot of people think that the dark web is like this completely hidden place where they can't be tracked.
Yeah, but that's just not true. Everything you do online leaves a trace, and the police are getting better and better at finding and understanding those traces.
It's like the whole idea of crime is changing.
Hmm.
We used to think of it as happening in physical places,
Yeah.
but now so much of it is happening in this digital world.
It's a whole new landscape for both criminals and for law enforcement.
And it sounds like law enforcement is having to adapt pretty quickly.
It's a constant learning process. They have to keep developing new skills and techniques to keep up with the ways criminals are using technology.
Because the methods might change, but the criminals are still out there.
Exactly. And the police have to be ready to adapt and stay one step ahead.
That's so interesting. So for everyone listening to this, the main takeaway is that you might think you're anonymous on the dark web, but you're not. Those clicks deep in the darkest corners of the internet can come back to haunt you.
That's a great way to put it. I mean, even in the digital world, actions have consequences.
It's a bit scary when you think about it because we're all spending more and more time online.
We are. And it's important to remember that the internet isn't this lawless space where anything goes.
Exactly. There are rules and there are consequences. And as we've seen in Kerala, even a few clicks online can lead to a very real knock on your door.
It's definitely something to keep in mind as we navigate this increasingly digital world.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the changing world of drug trafficking. I think we all learned a lot today.
I agree. It's been a great discussion.
So until next time, stay safe online, everyone.
And be mindful of your digital footprint.
Exactly, because you never know who might be watching.
That's right. You never know.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
See you then.
Bye.